I finished a Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword puzzle. If I remember to do it, I will show a picture here of how it looks like. It took me like around 8 hours. It was 1,000 pieces, and I really had a blast doing it. It was a lot of fun. I just love doing puzzles, man. The it's the same puzzle I mentioned in the previous streams and the previous videos that you guys see for YouTube side. That I was like, oh, I should probably get that started. Well, I started it, 8 hours later, finished it. And now I gotta hang it up somewhere. I have a cardboard background. Just need to, like, you know, put some. That's a solution to make the puzzle stick to get a bit nicer. Then put some spray glue on the cardboard background, and then just stick it on there. And you know what else we can stick on? The Dr. Von Entertainment Shell Paint playset. Hey, who says I don't know how to do a good transition? Who says I don't know how to do a good transition? For everybody on YouTube though, subscribe, like and comment, please, please. I wanna. We're at 45 currently. I wonder if I can get at least 200 subscribers before the year ends. Maybe even more, who knows. But here we go. Dr. Von Entertainment Shadow Paint playset. What is this thing? I assume I don't have to read that, but who knows. A bit of a lengthy one. Not too lengthy, but a bit of a lengthy one. Another save. It has been 3. Ah, okay, yeah, I was here before. We got 3 saves so far and 1 Euclid. Packages of SCP-1553 are to be contained in high-value storage locker 0227 at Research Site 14. Experimentation is to take place exclusively in White Lab 2. The lab shall be equipped with recessed halogen flood lamps, an overhead projector, 2 high-intensity flashlights, a table, and an auto-locking door operated remotely. All walls are to be painted flat white annually and cleaned weekly by maintenance staff. No windows or light controls are accessible from within the lab. Over translucent or transparent equipment and furniture will be allowed to enter White Lab 2 unless authorized for experimentation purposes. All additional equipment must be removed and all instances of -1 or -2 must be terminated at the conclusion of each test. As of incident -2, no instances will be allowed to persist activity for a period greater than 8 hours. White Lab 2 is to be kept under 24-hour remote video surveillance and remain illuminated for 3 days following any experimentation. In the event of any anomalous shadow activity, lighting failure within the lab, or unauthorized opening of the lab door during this period, containment breach is to be assumed. The hallway is to be sealed and Protocol 12 Trondholm initiated. Dr. Von Entertainment, what have you created this time, you crafty bastard? Manufacturer's packaging identifies SCP-1553 as Dr. Von Entertainment's Shadow Paint playset. Each is packaged in a blue and green shrink-wrapped cardboard box with black lettering, dimension 15 x 22 x 22 centimeters. Contents include 1.89 liter 2QT of a translucent viscous black fluid -A in white plastic bucket labeled shadow paint. 1 white foam sponge dimensions 3 x 10 x 20 centimeters -B with embossed label shadow eraser. A non-anomalous number 18 painter's brush. Manufacturer's documentation booklet, see document C. To date, 10 instances have been discovered in the United States, 3 in Canada and 5 in the European Union. Interrogation determined in all cases that store employees, managers, and regional executives had no knowledge of the presence or properties of SCP-1553. Efforts to locate additional instances are ongoing. When applied to any illuminated surface, -A will dry completely, leaving no residue. Footnote says, a minimum brightness of 3 lux is required for -A to dry and anomalous properties to manifest. So if it's like, if you paint in the pitch black dark, it's not going to have the anomalous effect, if I understand this correctly. In its place, the surface will then display an anomalous shadow object designated -1. Oh boy. Oh no. Oh no, not a shadow object. Instances maintain a form painted by -A and are capable of interacting with any shadow, anomalous or otherwise, via direct contact. If -A is used to depict an animal or humanoid, the image will spontaneously animate upon drying, creating an instance of -2. These instances will display intelligence, physical ability, and behavior appropriate to their form. Instances will only animate if depicted as solid, uninterrupted silhouettes. -2 requires no sustenance to survive, but will partake of food-based instances of -1 if any are available, which we know -2 is a... I see. Okay. Now I'm getting it now. If any are available, yep. Researchers requesting permission to test humanoid or dangerous instances of -2 are reminded to review Incident Report 2 and consider the experimental parameters very carefully. My lips, why are they acting up like this? Every time I read, man. The properties, mannerisms, and abilities of -1 and -2 vary significantly from one instance to the next, and are closely linked with the intentions, temperament, beliefs, and attitudes of the user. However, all instances do share certain qualities in common. SCP-1553 projections will always interact as though they are discrete, three-dimensional physical objects, despite existing solely as two-dimensional silhouettes. All instances have the ability to loom or grow in relation to the surface on which they exist by moving interaction field toward the primary light source. -1's field of interaction will behave according to the beliefs of the user, with the original user's beliefs taking precedent over the other observers. -2 has demonstrated the ability to determine its own position relative to actual objects, which does not always correspond well with Euclidean topology. I see. Users are universally able to experience the properties of the interaction field through touch and sound, although no sound caused by SCP-1553 has ever been recorded, and no physical object responsible for shadows designated -1 or -2 can be verified. Application of -B directly to any shadow anomalous or otherwise results in the shadow's immediate disappearance. Neutralization of -1 and -2 can also be achieved via mere shadow contact with -B, leaving non-anomalous shadows intact. To date, no other method has been found effective to neutralize the effects of -A, and research attempting to reproduce this effect is ongoing. If -B is used to erase the shadow of a real object, the region affected will lose opacity within 30 seconds. Observers describe such objects as appearing simultaneously visible and invisible. After approximately 5 minutes, the region will lose its ability to interact physically with normal objects. In inanimate objects, the effects can be easily reversed by liberal application of -A on any nearby surface. However, in living subjects, the process can result in significant injury if not treated immediately. See experiment 37 and 38 for more details. Okay, but here we have addendum 1, document C. Forward, copied below are the English text portions of the manufacturer's documentation for SCP-1553 Dr. Von Timmins Shadow Paint playset. Documentation also includes several pictorial representation and suggestions accompanying the text. Okay, let's go. Let's get into it. Hey kids, say goodbye to sidewalk chalk. It's Dr. Von Timmins Shadow Paint playset. Simply apply the pattern shadow paint formula to any surface where light is cast and watch the fun come to life. Thanks to animagination technology, the only limit to your creation is your own imagination. Whole shadow kingdoms can rise and fall before your very eyes. Scare your young brother siblings with gigantic shadow monsters. Touch your shadow toys and play with them as though they're really there. Don't worry, Mom and Dad. Cleanup is super easy with the miraculous shadow eraser. Just wave the eraser over the play area and you're done. For those hard to reach spots, rub shadow eraser gently over the surface and watch the shadows disappear like magic. Guaranteed. Be very careful, you will want to erase a real shadow by mistake. Warning, remember the shadow creatures are as friendly or dangerous as you imagine them to be. Do not attempt to draw real people using shadow paint play set. Dr. One Thing is not responsible for injury, discomfort, or existential crisis resulting from misuse of shadow paint play set. Okay. Well, that's good to know that the sponge can erase your own shadow by accident. Addendum 2. Low light photography has confirmed that below the critical brightness of 3 lux, instances of -1 and -2 are undetectable as surface-bound silhouettes, but can be modeled as quasi-physical objects as of size and shape appropriate to their form in brighter conditions. The effect persists until such time as ambient lighting conditions expose instances to brightness 3 lux or greater. Though the field of interaction can be mapped with sonographic imaging, it is at present impossible to confirm whether or not a fundamentally physical object exists in this region, as all other scanning equipment available relies on non-visible light wavelengths to render an image, and this negates the effect. Addendum 3. Abridged experiment log. This document includes several important experiments necessary to understanding the intricacies of the effects of -A and -B in greater detail. Unabridged log available upon request. Experiment 5. Effect 1. Summary. D4310 instructed to use SB-A. I don't know why my brain had a stroke at that point. To depict a claw hammer using a stencil. Reported instance is feeling light, plastic, and fake. -1 was ineffective at driving the nail provided and broke after 2 strikes. Instance neutralized. Subject instructed to repeat procedure while imagining a useful hammer. Reported new instances are being very heavy with a handle having the texture of hard rubber. -1 successfully drove the nail in 3 strikes. So yeah, because he made a hammer that I guess the D class was like, oh, it's a painting of a hammer. It's not gonna be strong, and that's what happened. The hammer was like boop, boop, broke, but because he was like, no, think it's strong, and the next thing you know, it works. Which can be dangerous though if you let a D class think of something dangerous. You know what I mean? That's probably also why they say like, hey, because there's a procedure right here. Like, what was it? Or am I just dumb? Was it? Oh. Oof. That was weird. A little bit of bile came up. Ugh. Let's go on. Experiment 12. Agent F instructed to depict a Beretta 92 service pistol using stencil provided and is given access to 5D class subject scheduled for termination. You know, sometimes the Foundation is a little bit sick in the head. Hey, we gotta terminate those 5D class. What should we do with them? How about we use this SCP that can create any object out of a shadow, out of paint, out of black paint, and just shoot them? Huh. Yeah, that sounds about right. It's a good way to experiment with this thing, right? Kind of fucked. Despite Agent F's knowledge of firearms and intent to make a working weapon, that one fails to function effectively. Subjects report a stinging sensation similar to being shot with a paintball or BB gun and suffer no visible injuries. Long-term observation revealed no negative effects. Solved the machine problem with knowledge, but the weapon problem seems to be universal. I think we learned all what we can about -1 for now. Let's move on. Solved the machine problem with knowledge, but the weapon problem seems to be universal. So as in like, you can make the weapon, but it's not gonna be actually. That leaves me confused now. Oh well. Experiment 21. D4330 instructed to depict Felis catus using stencil provided. -2 manifests upon drying and immediately retreats to the opposite corner of the room. D4330 successfully coaxes -2 out of the corner and reports furry texture and warmth and tactile sensation. The subject also reports hearing a purring sound as he pets -2. That's cute. Although no audio is recorded. Instance continues interacting in a friendly manner until D4330 attempts to pick it up, at which point -2 scratches and bites the subject, causing him to drop it. Instance terminated. Oh, that's a shame. Note, D4330 was admitted to on-site infirmary with reports of numbness in his hand, where -2 had scratched and bitten him. Subject treated for minor skin infection and released. Recommend we start scaling things up, so see if we can make smaller and larger instances. Dr. F. We're gonna have a whole tiger. I feel bad for D-Class. It would have been a cute little shower pet to have, although the Foundation probably would not have allowed that D-Class to keep it. Experiment 37. D5001 instructed to erase part of his shadow and reports effect. Subject initially unnerved but became mildly amused, erasing greater and greater portions of shadow in the lower abdominal region. Subject reports a slight tingling sensation followed by lightheadedness. Attending researchers report a semi-transparent quality to D5001's abdomen, followed by a barely visible network of dark red colors resembling blood vessels and capillaries. 4 minutes following exposure, the region loses coherency, causing significant biohazard cleanup in White Lab 2. D5001 terminated. Affected region remains suspended in mid-air until -A is applied to the wall, where its shadow would normally fall. -A instantly dries and the excised portion again becomes subject to gravity. Remains display no further anomalous property and are incinerated. Okay, yeah, don't do that experiment again. Experiment 38. Yeah, isn't this the experiments that like... Yeah. However, in living subjects with plus kind of so yeah. D5002 instructed to erase her shadow in its entirety. Subject is at first reluctant but complies, erasing her entire shadow within 1.25 minutes. D5002 reports no initial negative effect apart from feeling chilly. 29 seconds following erasure, subject begins to fade, becoming translucent. After 5.50 minutes, the subject's voice is no longer audible. D5002 signals that she is unable to hear, although she continues to move about freely. Is still able to see and appears to breathe normally. Subject demonstrates the ability to move through solid objects within the laboratory and attempts to reach containment. Unable to restrain subject via conventional means, lighting in White Lab 2 extinguished by Junior researcher G, causing data expunged. D5002 terminated and biohazard cleanup crews dispatched. It appears that erasing the shadow of an extent object has the opposite effect of painting a shadow where no object exists. Recommend some further research to determine application in intelligence / counterintelligence operation. Dr. G. Okay, that was a wild ride to go down. Dr. One Entertainment, you are a crafty bastard. We have 2 Dr. One Entertainments in this one. That's crazy.